going on in the MCU in 2022, you would be forgiven for neglecting some of the more obscure pieces of information about the MCU gods. And with such an expansive backstory, there is plenty you might not have realized. But don't worry, we've got you. Today, we're discussing some of the many things you might not know about the gods of the MCU, so don't go anywhere. First up, it's the Hall of All-Knowing. The Hall of All-Knowing is a humongous library based in Omnipotent City, which acts as a homage to the gods. In the immense hall, you can find a history of the gods, plus all the deeds they've been involved in, be it good or bad. And on those shelves, you'll find tales of dark gods, elder gods, Apu, Anunnaki, Heliopolitans, and many more. The Hall of All-Knowing is seen as one of the most important places in one of the most important cities in the entire cosmos. And Omnipotent City itself holds a special place in the hearts of fans of the MCU. Built out of the embers of the fires used to build the first stars, it is the place where the gods meet to discuss the all-important things going on in the universe, whatever might be going on at any one time. Were you aware of the Hall of Unknowing? Next up, we're talking the nature of life and death. Of course, we all know gods are immortal, and even if something or someone does manage to get the better of them during battle, they can simply shift to a different realm. The afterlife as such is really just a space for gods to hang out once they've lived their mortal lives, until they choose that it's time to mix things up again with the mortals. We see a lot of characters, not just the gods, return from death all the time in the comics. Basically everyone apart from Gwen Stacy and Uncle Ben, sadly for those guys. But the afterlife is especially true for the gods. We're discussing alien gods next. Stick around. You probably won't be aware that there's actually a category of alien gods in the MCU, somewhat surprisingly. Of course, most tales feature the more well-known god categories, such as the Asgardians, the Olympians, or the Elder Gods. However, you would be remiss for assuming that there is no such thing as alien gods. There are. Most fans of the MCU will be well aware of traditional types of gods, such as the Norse or Roman gods. But in the MCU, even aliens have their own gods, which we must admit is pretty cool. Some examples include Shadrach, a librarian god who lived on the diamond moons of Oghago, the married gods of the Shi'ar, Kithri, and Shara, and also the Skrull pantheon, led by Silgurt, the goddess of infinite names, and Kleban, the eternal Skrull. There are actually more alien gods than one might initially realize, which might surprise some casual MCU fans. Were you guys aware of the alien gods? Next, gods can actually change. You might have simply assumed that due to their immortality, gods do not change whatsoever, but this isn't entirely true. Yes, they can easily go through eternity without ever changing, as largely they do not need to, but there are some key examples of some gods actually changing. Some can even do it in the blink of an eye. One example we can take of a changing god is the popular Thor of the Avengers. He has become a more worthy god over the years, whilst his brother Loki has become more and more conniving. And then we have Hercules, who has become a little calmer and less proud. And some gods can even change what it is they actually rule over. Shadrach, for example, has changed what he is as a god so many times it's difficult to keep up with them. What would you rule over if you had the choice? We're talking about how many souls some gods have next. Stay with us. It would be obvious just to assume gods have just one soul, but this isn't true. Although some gods do have just one, many have more than one. The elder gods were even known by completely different names before humanity was around, the many-souled ones. Of course, they lived so long ago, and there wasn't even an afterlife for them to go to once they did eventually die, so their souls had to stick around in their dead host bodies. Bummer. Nowadays, some of these dead gods have been unearthed, with their corpses actually being sold as drugs so people can absorb their essence, which is one of the creepier things we've found out about the gods. What do you make of this one? One Above All is dropping in now. Stay tuned. As you probably know, this guy is probably the closest the MCU has to the Supreme Ruler, but many fans are unsure of the exact nature of the deity. Apparently, the comics kept details vague on purpose, to simply have people enjoy the comics for what they are, rather than invoke discussion of theology, which is almost certainly for the best. But it is thought that the One Above All can manifest any form he, she, it feels, which is why both Stan Lee and Jack Kirby have both appeared as avatars of the Supreme Being in the past. Interesting. Who do you think should be used as the next avatar for the One Above All? We're talking about Apotheosis now. Don't go anywhere. This world itself has a few different meanings, but in the context of the MCU, it is thought to mean the process by which one achieves godhood. Throughout Marvel's run, they have shown many mortals morphing into gods by simply wielding a divine weapon. Think Jane Foster and Mjolnir, as well as Daredevil becoming the god without fear. However, there is a way to become a god in the eyes of the gods themselves, without actually being a god, if that makes sense. If as a mortal you use your time on Earth to do such good, like Tony Stark, Thor himself might think of you as a god, which he does of Iron Man. And some mortals, such as Gore the God Butcher, even become a god without even wanting to. How rude. Were you aware of Apotheosis? The One Below All is joining us now. This guy is possibly the biggest representation of evil there is. There are quite a few devils dotted around the multiverse, but the One Below All has such disregard for hyphens that he takes the cake for the biggest one of them all. We saw the deity appear to Hulk in the Immortal Hulk series, as the exact opposite of the One Above All. It uses gamma radiation to enter our earthly realm, and it is thought that Bruce Banner's Gamma Bomb could have been the event which allowed the One Below All to enter the physical domain. What did you guys think about the One Below All's appearance in Immortal Hulk? Next up, some gods can actually cease being gods. You might not be aware of this one, but yep, it's true. Just like some mortals can transcend mortality to become gods, gods can cease to be too. You only have to look at charismatic gods, such as Jane Foster and Daredevil, who became gods only to relinquish their crowns. Gods can also be stripped of their powers if they act too ungodly, which makes you wonder why some of these more sneaky gods haven't been forced to relinquish their titles. Would you be into living forever if you could be a god? We think it'd be pretty tedious. And finally, we're talking about those elder gods. Stay right where you are. You don't have to be a god to be a powerful entity within the Marvel Universe, but it certainly helps. If we look at the Living Tribunal, for example, this one is in a category all of their own. Then we come to the partially extinct elder gods, who of course all existed in one different form or another, before the cosmos settled into how we know it now. But some of the elder gods also existed outside of reality, as well as before the universe even existed. Let that one sink in. But the elder gods Cthulhu, for example, are not gods in the traditional sense, to be worshipped or revered, but rather commandeer their hosts' nightmares, terrifying mortals all across the multiverse. However, you might not realize they can actually be controlled. They have been manipulated by magical practitioners, and whilst their bodies have in some cases been turned into dangerous drugs, they are still gods. So good luck trying to control or even understand them if you are a lowly mere mortal. What do you make of the elder gods? Give us your thoughts below. As always, thanks for stopping by today, and remember to join us next time when we'll be discussing more fun bits and pieces. Also, if you feel like doing us a solid, feel free to like and share today's video with any Marvel heads you might have lurking on your socials. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any more great content in the future. Bye guys!